Yeah, so this was a pretty short flight from Cairo to Dubai, and it's on the Emirates First Class A380 plane. And it was only like a 3.5 or 4 hour flight, but I'm like, this is the easiest way for me to get this seat without spending all of my points. It's just a short flight. So I get on this plane. You have like your own little suite thing, and then you have just like a bucket of snacks. There's like a Bulgari amenity kit. There's a full-size perfume thing in there. And I was like, hi, I need pajamas. And they're like, ma'am, it's a 4 hour flight from like 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And I'm like, yes, I will need the pajamas. I will need a shower and some caviar and the champagne, the Dom Perignon champagne.
Yeah.
So I got through all of this in 4 hours, did the shower on the plane.
Right.
But yes, that's the Emirates First Class flight.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Dre and Smiley Inner Circle podcast.
Smiley, man, how many times have we traveled, right? And we've been in long lines that we feel like it's probably unnecessary. There's probably a better way to do this. Or worse, we've taken a trip from point A to point B and spent, an excessive amount of money and also thought, there's gotta be a cheaper way. Or we've wanted to fly from point A to point Z and you just look like there's no direct flight. I do not believe that I have to take 12 different flights just to get there. Today's guest is going to help us and our audience with understanding the options that exist that we may not be aware of in terms of better ways to travel. So with that, Julia, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, hello. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So let's start with the obvious question. Did you, at 13 years old, decide, you know what, this travel thing I see my parents do, I'm going to teach everyone how to do it better? Tell me about your journey to becoming what I would call a travel oracle.
Definitely didn't happen at age 13 when I was growing up. I'm Filipina, so we would take a vacation back to the Philippines like every 8 years or so because we didn't know about points and miles. And if you have a family of 5, it took us that long to save up money, and then we would go on vacation, definitely flying economy. And then that's just how travel was when I was growing up. I did not go to school for travel or anything. I was actually an actuary, so doing a lot of deep math, modeling, statistics, all of that. And I really wanted to be stationed abroad. So every time I had one of those talks with my manager about where do you see yourself in 5 years, I'm like, I really want to do the international program. I'd like to be stationed in one of our international offices. And by the time I got to that team, the pandemic hit. So my day job wasn't sending me abroad anyway, where they're like, congrats, you've made it to the global department. Travel's down. So you're just going to be doing all of the modeling from here, like every other role you've had. So thankfully, by then, my husband and I had already gotten into a little bit of the high rewards credit cards. We knew a little bit about points and miles and redeeming those. So I'm like, well, if work isn't just going to pay for me to travel everywhere, I guess there are other ways where we can just handle this on our own, and it kind of evolved from there.
Yeah. You mentioned the points travel cards. So recently, my sister had a flight and she wasn't able to take it. And she was like, hey, I'm busy. Can take care of this in terms of getting the credit for it? I was like, yeah, no problem. So I called the airline up and I'm thinking, okay, so I got to figure out which card she used to pay for the flight because it was an expensive flight, I would have thought. And I talked to the airlines, and they got everything done, and they said, okay, we're going to credit you back your 50,000 points. I'm like, oh, she used points for this? I was in my head, I'm like, whoa, I thought she was spending a lot of money. So that was news to me. So you mentioned the credit cards with points. How did you discover those? And then tell me about how you leverage those points without getting into debt.
Yes, very important question. So before anybody gets into the world of high rewards credit card, please be in a place where you are paying off your credit card bills in full every month. Don't try to do some of the complicated math of, well, I'm getting this much out of points, but like having to pay this much in interest. Just don't do it. Just stay out of the game until you are at that point in your financial journey, and then it'll be ready for you. Because a lot of the high rewards credit cards have some of the highest interest rates anywhere on the market. We're talking 20+% APR. So if you don't pay off your bill in full every month, those interest charges will bury you. So you have to make sure you're in a place where you are paying off your bill every month in full, and then you can really reap the rewards of credit card rewards. My husband and I got into this because one day I was done with my actuarial exams, which I spend like hundreds of hours per month studying for these. And then one day I was done with all my certifications and I had too much energy. So my husband was like, you need a hobby. Maybe read these personal finance blogs. I think you'll enjoy them. He did not realize how much I would enjoy them. So I dove down a deep rabbit hole and discovered that there are people who get to travel for like 90% off or something in business class by leveraging some of those different point systems through these blogs.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine being an actuary, having that background as a great skill set in terms of sifting through the weeds to figure out which deals are the best as it relates to credit cards, things like that. So, what criteria would you say the average person like myself and Smiley could use to determine, oh, we should go with this Visa versus that American Express versus that, other credit card? What criteria do you use to determine which credit card with mileage is the best credit card for me?
Fantastic question. I recommend working backwards. So many people do what I call shiny card syndrome, where they start following a whole bunch of credit card influencers on Instagram or YouTube, and they end up with 20 different cards because people are like, you should get all these cards. A lot of us are paid on affiliate commission whenever you sign up for one of the cards through our links. So instead of just doing that, I would work backwards. Figure out where or when it is that you want to travel. And then from there, figure out what airlines can even get me from my home airport over to that region of the world. Because if you want to go to Europe and there's a great Southwest Airlines promotion, it's not really going to be that helpful for you. So once you figure out the airlines that fly, the next step is to figure out what kind of points can I transfer over to those airlines or their partners, maybe Amex, maybe Chase, maybe Capital One, and then use that to determine what card you should get. I know it sounds like a lot of steps, so we do free credit card consultations where we'll just do all of that for you. You can go to geobreezetravel.com/consultations. There's the link to the free credit card form there. But that's what I would recommend, is working backwards rather than just getting all of the cards, because it's what you see people talking about, because people talk about what they're paid to talk about.
I like that when you said that you had so much energy and your husband encouraged you to look into a deep rabbit hole of the finance. From an actuarial perspective, when you turned your focus on this travel, did you use, because you mentioned it was during the pandemic, right at the release of a lot of these chat GPTs and AIs, did you incorporate your math skills, your actuarial skills, your travel knowledge with an AI package to help you sift through all these different programs?
No, I did not use artificial intelligence in the beginning. I don't use it that much now because AI is so bad at finding points deals, but I used actual humans. So during the pandemic, I'm very extroverted. I was so lonely and just wanted to talk to people about points all the time. And my husband was a bit tired of hearing about it. My family and my non-points friends were very tired of hearing about it. So I started just reaching out to people on Instagram who have points and miles accounts. And I was like, hey, do you want to just hop on a Zoom like this and hang out and talk about points and nerd out together? And they were like, no, who are you? Just sliding into my DMs like this. That's very weird. So then I was like, well, what if I record our conversation and then I'll release it to thousands of people on the internet? And by thousands, I mean like the 2,000 followers I had at that point. But they were like, oh, you want to start a points podcast? Yeah, I'd love to be featured. And I said, yeah, I am definitely starting a points podcast, which in the beginning I did just because I wanted people to talk to, and also because I wanted free consulting where I just bring people on the show and ask them, what are your secrets? How are you doing this? So that's how the business was kind of born during the pandemic, was not out of AI or anything, but just connecting with other humans so that I had somebody to talk to about this very niche and nerdy hobby.
Brilliant.
Your story is so fascinating because during the pandemic, I received a call from this guy named Andre, and he's like, Smiley, why don't we start a podcast? We're extroverted and we can't get out. Why don't we start the Dre and Smiley podcast? I'm like, all right. And that's the sole reason why we started, because we were isolated. And it's like, how do you get an outlet? How do you meet people when you're imprisoned in your home? That's why we were smiling so much. It's like you had a similar journey as we had. So that is super cool. So back to the travel. I like the way you said work backwards, because if you want to go to Europe, Southwest isn't the one. I travel a lot. What was some place that you didn't realize was so difficult to get to, but you figured it out? If you can explain the connection strategy that you have.
Yeah, a lot of people are either wanting to fly from very small airports or to really small airports where they're like, hey, I'm traveling from Arkansas and I need to get to this little tiny island off the coast of Thailand. Are there direct flights? No, there are not any direct flights for that route. So what I recommend people do is prioritize what is the best way to get over the ocean. And this is where those positioning flights might come into play. Where if you're based in Arkansas, don't search for flights directly out of Arkansas. Search from the major hub airports. Maybe you find something from Chicago or Texas. Maybe you have to go over to California, and there's a really good deal from Los Angeles to Singapore or Thailand or something like that. Book that flight over the ocean, because that's where you're going to get a really good deal with points, is out of the hub cities to the hub cities. Then for everything else where you're like, well, how do I get from Arkansas to California? How do I get from Singapore over to the island I actually want to do? Those are much cheaper cash flights. So then just buy the ticket from Arkansas to California, buy the ticket in cash from Singapore over to the island that you want to get to. Because so many people are like searching for points tickets the same way they're searching on Google Flights, where it has to be from point A all the way to point B, and there's just not any good routes for that. So prioritize what's the best way to get over the ocean, especially in business class, and then work positioning flights around that. Because I live in Las Vegas, but there's almost no good international flight deals out of here. So we're oftentimes booking stuff out of Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, maybe Texas, and then we'll just buy a cheap flight from Las Vegas to wherever that is and then hop on the flight from there.
Yeah, that's surprising there aren't cheap flights from Vegas considering the volume of traffic they have. But I guess Vegas isn't a hub for an airline, is it?
Not for international. We have great domestic flights to connect to any of these major hub airlines that have the international flights. But from Las Vegas, there's a direct flight to Korea, and that's it for all of Asia. We have a couple airlines that go straight to Frankfurt and London. We have Amsterdam and a couple other ones, some of Mexico and Central America, but by and large, not a ton.
Okay. And tell me this, years ago, probably a decade, there's a consumer reporter that I used to listen to who suggested if you wanted to fly from, let's say, New York to Atlanta, one option was to buy a ticket that had a layover where you change planes in Atlanta. So, for example, the flight would look something like this. JFK to Hartsfield to San Francisco. And so you would change planes in Atlanta and then catch your connector to San Francisco. And if you actually just wanted to go to Atlanta, you would just get off the plane there and not get back on. The advantage, he said, is that you can get a cheaper flight doing that sometimes versus just getting a flight from JFK to Hartsfield. What are your thoughts on that? Is that something that is still done today?
You're describing is called skip lag flights.
Skip lag flights.
I don't recommend it for multiple reasons. One, if you have a check bag, that bag's going to San Francisco. So you can only do this if you have carry-on only. If you tie your loyalty number, like your frequent flyer account, to this, you risk losing your points or having your account shut down. So you can only really do this with airlines where you wouldn't have perks anyway. If they have to reroute you, where they're like, hey, there's a storm in Atlanta, we'll still get you to San Francisco, but now it goes JFK to Chicago to San Francisco, and then you're like, oh no, I really need to fly through Atlanta, they're going to be like, well, that's a bit sus. We're still getting you to San Francisco. So for me, the risk is not worth the reward with doing skip lag flights.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, and then the next question, the big one is, what is Geobreeze? And tell me about Geobreeze's mission.
Yeah. So we help people, mostly business owners, high cash flow individuals, use everyday expenses, put them on the right credit cards, earn points, use those points to get amazing outsized luxury flights and hotel stays. And really, the mission of this in the beginning was I would look through and like start DMing people who I wanted to talk to on the podcast, and they don't look like us. It was a whole bunch of white dudes. And I'm like, okay, I can't just have another podcast where I'm just featuring a whole bunch of white dudes. That's very strange. So I really dug in and was like, you don't have to have a big channel. You don't have to have a big anything. Just like be able to talk about points and miles. And I wanted to feature people from all different walks of life because there's so many different ways to play this game. And the strategies are very different because I don't have kids. So somebody who has children and is doing family style travel on points, very different than somebody who is a 20-year-old consultant who's traveling just on their own all the time. So there's tons of different strategies. And in the beginning, I really, really just wanted to showcase, hey, even if you don't fit a particular mold, points and miles can still be for you as long as you follow the rules of engagement with the financial foundation and paying everything off on time. So really wanted to just showcase that it's available for people from all walks of life. These days, I think at least on Instagram, which is where I mostly hang out, if you just throw a dart onto a points influencer, we might be at more than 50% women now, which is fantastic. So as it has evolved, I find myself focusing more on the business side of it as well, because as more people got into the points game, everybody started just going for affiliate links because that's the easiest way to make money is to be like, oh, you don't need to pay me anything. Just apply for a credit card through this link and I'll get a commission for it. The credit card companies and the FTC compliance laws about what you're allowed to post, what you're not allowed to post is a lot of hoops to jump through. And so some people put all of their eggs in the affiliate link basket, and then they get their links taken away by Chase or Amex or something else, and then now they don't have any money anymore. So I've been focusing a lot more lately on diversifying income streams, different types of ways to earn money in this space outside of just affiliate links, because at this point there's a pretty big subset where it's just parroting the talking points that the credit card companies have approved for you to say online. And that's not fun. It kind of takes away from the personalized voice that people build when they have their own brand.
Sure, sure. Yeah, that's admirable because, like you were saying, there's an underrepresented group, right? That probably doesn't even realize the options that exist in terms of travel. The first thing they think of is, that just seems so expensive. Tell me this: what is there's a YouTuber out there. His name is Casey Neistat. Before COVID, he would always he'd post a lot of stuff. One of the things he posted that always blew my mind is some of the travel um, he would get involved in. It's like airplanes from like JFK to usually is the UAE somewhere on planes that had showers, things like that. For me, that's like one of my bucket list goals, right? I want to get on a plane that is, it's so big, it's so luxurious. Not only can I lay my seat back and have my own little compartment, but if I decide to, I can go up in there and take a shower. Being that you've traveled as much as you have, I'm curious, what's your bucket list travel item?
So I've done the shower on the plane. It's on Emirates
Whoa,
first
tell me
class.
about that. Don't skip over it.
Yeah, yeah.
Smiley, did you hear that? Very matter of factly. Yeah, I've done the shower on the plane. It's not a big deal. Wait a minute. Tell us about it. What was that like?
I already made your bucket.
Yeah.
What's your bucket, Dre?
Yeah, right. So I gotta aim higher now. She's like, I've already done that. Tell me about it. How was it? How did it come about? All that.
Yeah, so this was a pretty short flight from Cairo to Dubai, and it's on the Emirates first class A380 plane. And it was only like a 3.5 or 4 hour flight, but I'm like, this is the easiest way for me to get this seat without spending all of my points. It's just a short flight. So I get on this plane, and you have like your own little suite thing, and then you have just like a bucket of snacks. They give you a tote bag, like a souvenir tote bag, because they know you're just gonna you're like, okay, this is all free. So I did that. There's like a Bulgari amenity kit. There's a full-size perfume thing in there. And I was like, hi, I need pajamas. And they're like, ma'am, it's a 4 hour flight. from like 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And I'm like, yes, I will need the pajamas. I will need a shower and some caviar and the champagne, the Dom Perignon champagne.
Yeah.
So I got through all of this in 4 hours, did the shower on the plane. It's funny because they're like, if something goes wrong, the mask will drop down from the shower, and they're like, turn off the shower for like oxygen purposes. So thankfully the plane was completely fine.
Right.
But yes, that's the Emirates first class flight. It's much harder to book now because you need to have status to book Emirates first class on points. Easiest way to do that is to get the Emirates credit card. I think it's like 100 or 200 per year, and then just by having that credit card, you have access to the first class availability on points. So that was a very cool flight. Another bucket list item for people, it's called Singapore Suites. I've done this one too. You get a double bed in the sky. So most planes, like business class, it's nice enough if you have a chair that folds into a lay flat bed. You have a separate chair and a separate bed, and then they can take down the walls. So if you're traveling with someone, you have their bed and their chair. So you have like this entire room, and again, pajamas, amenity kit, lobster on a plane. Just amazing experience. We've done that. As far as the bucket list of what I still haven't flown, there's a couple Japanese airlines that have first class flights. I've done Japan a couple times, but always in business class. I hear ANA first class is amazing. Japan Airlines first class I hear great things about that too. I've flown business class. Didn't love it. The food tasted like fish flavored jello to me. And I'm just like, everyone's so amazed at the ramen and the sushi they have on board. And I have this bento box of fish jello, but everyone tells me that first class is way better than business class with Japan Airlines. So those are a couple of the ones that are pretty high on my bucket list as well. Qantas is very difficult to book on points. There's one called Starlux that's a Taiwanese airline. They serve boba on the plane. I hear great things about that one as well. So those are some that are still on my bucket list.
When can you define perhaps, because I've flown business class a lot on American and even Delta, and it seems like the business is the same as the first class, but it sounds like on some of these international airlines, the business class is distinctly different from first class. Do you find that to be true, or is it the same, or they put me in the low budget section of the business class, or
So there's levels to this. If you're flying domestically, business class, first class, domestic is pretty much the same, where it doesn't lay flat. It's just like a big recliner chair at the front of the plane. They might give you food.
Mhm.
If you're flying overseas, internationally, a lot of the business class products will have lay flat seats where your chair will actually recline down so you can just lay flat, get a good night's sleep. It's very much tailored towards people who are traveling for business, where they say, I'm going to land in London in 7 hours and I need to be a functional human being. So I need a desk for my laptop and I need to be able to sleep on this plane. That's business class. They're optimizing for that kind of efficiency. With first class, they are just optimizing for crazy luxury. There's just caviar everywhere. The pajamas made by designers, they all have collaborations for the amenity kits with like Ferragamo, Bulgari, Porsche, and a whole bunch of other ones as well. So that's kind of the tiers of domestic, international, or domestic business and first class, international business, which is what I usually travel in, because first class is exponentially harder to find and book.
So I love the way you did the comparison with the identification of the luxury items in the first class, business class of airlines. Can you do the same with hotels, or is it drastically different? Or I met someone, he said, oh, Dubai has an 8-star hotel, whereas I thought he only went up to 5 stars. And he's like, no, in Dubai, it's an 8-star hotel. I was like, I can't even imagine what that means, but could you describe, do you do the hotels as well? I mean, that's part of the travel. So would you say this one, United Emirates, is the best first class airline, whereas Ritz-Carlton or whoever is the best hotel, blah, blah, blah?
Every hotel chain, because there's like the big four, which is Marriott, Hyatt, IHG, which owns like Holiday Inn, and then Hyatt. Those are the main four, but there's also other ones in the points world like Choice and Wyndham. Accor. So within each of those major brands, they have a bunch of sub-brands. I mostly focus on Hyatt. So you have the super luxury ones like Park Hyatt, or like Andaz is pretty high up there. And then you have the very low budget ones that are like Hyatt Place and Hyatt House, which are the ones where you just go in, you throw your bag into your room and you're like, I don't even care about this hotel. Like hotel room, it doesn't have to be nice. I just need a place to sleep, shower. They have free breakfast for everybody. There's mid-tier ones, there's all-inclusive. So within a portfolio, there's lots of different sub-brands based off of, is this for a business trip? Is this for a wellness trip? Do you want something for children? Do you want something for honeymoon? Do you want something for luxury? So within each of those different brands, lots of choices for you there. The points and miles world really likes to focus on Hyatt because I think those points still go the furthest. But I also have titanium status with Marriott. You can get status pretty easily with Hilton. A lot of hotel status you can get just by having a credit card. I wouldn't chase status until you do the cost-benefit analysis of, hey, it's going to cost this much for me to get the credit card. Do I even stay at Hilton hotels? So that's something that somebody should analyze before just saying, I want status just to feel important.
When I talked to my cousin who's a little bit older than I am, that we were going to speak with you, she's like, ask her about cruise points, because she's a cruiser. She'll take 45-day cruises, or she'll cruise 70% of the year because she's in that, let's say, lower 70s, and her crew of girlfriends, they just jump on a boat and float around the world. So do you do cruise points and things like that? Or is it everything hospitality, or just airlines and hotels that you focus on?
If you want to use your points, it's going to go furthest with airlines and hotels. That's how you get the most value out of it. For cruises, Virgin Voyages is going to be probably the best use of points. Most of their cruises, I think, if not all of them, go out of Miami. And they're pretty good because Virgin also has an airline. So they have their airline program and their cruise program. But using your points for something like MSC, Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, Carnival, Princess Cruises, Crystal, any of those, you're probably just cashing out your points for it, so your points aren't going to stretch that far. Instead, I would say pay for those cruises with your points, pay for those cruises with just normal money, earn points, and then use those points for the flight if you have to get to the cruise, or if you have to if you want to stay a couple days before or after the cruise ends, use the points for the hotel. So build out the trip that way rather than cashing out your points for the cruise.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
You mentioned titanium. So a buddy of mine and I used to travel a lot, right? I mean, we were gone all the time. And this is years ago. And now sometimes we reflect back on, yeah, I remember when we were at platinum status and get to the hotel, they'd say, hey, Mr. So-and-so, welcome. Here's your, free chocolate chip cookie. Or, if you're flying, you get to bumped ahead, that type of thing. Titanium status, Julia. What is that like? I didn't realize there was a titanium status with Marriott, because I'm with Marriott as well. What is titanium status like? What's the perks? What are the perks you receive?
They're disappointing, and platinum status is where it's at. I am not renewing my titanium status this year because I have platinum status automatically just by having one of the Marriott credit cards. And with platinum status, it's the middle one. You get free breakfast. You get upgrades upon availability that are never available for like the domestic ones. Sometimes they'll work a bit better internationally. With titanium, I get all of these upgrade certificates where you bid on upgrades. They're never approved. I'm just like, oh my God, Marriott, this is not worth it. So yeah, what is titanium like? Not worth it. Go for platinum.
Okay.
It's easier, and I think the return on investment is much better for the mid-tier. With Hyatt, very much the opposite. Their middle tier is called Explorist. Useless. Don't go for that. That one's like top tier Globalist or nothing, because you need Globalist in order to get the free breakfast. You get late 4 p.m. checkout. And the nice thing is you can even make reservations for other people with your points and then like guest of honor them. So they're treated like they have status, even if they don't have status as well. You get like guest of honor certificates you can give to your friends. So different hotels will have different sweet spots for like, here's the status I would actually recommend. Most people are after the free breakfast.
Dre, when you mentioned that, I looked at because I think, Julie, you're the second titanium person I met because one of my buddies here, I was bragging about I'm a lifetime platinum elite, and he's like, I'm titanium. I was like, you don't travel like I do. How? And he has his business and he runs all his business, everything through his credit card, and he gets free trips to Dubai, all over the world because he runs his business through his Marriott card. But I'm a lifetime platinum elite. So you saying that's the best place to be inside of Marriott?
Depending on how much you travel, I think it's the sweet spot. Um,
Cool.
yeah,
I like
if
that.
you're traveling like 60 nights or so per year, like 60 nights in a hotel, Hyatt's pretty good. If you are traveling more than 100 nights, Marriott Ambassador, I hear is pretty good. I have not, like, that's the top one.
Mhm.
I've not been there. But if you're traveling that much, I would honestly just like try to diversify which hotels I have status with because I love Hyatt, but they're not everywhere. They have a pretty small footprint. So Marriott's my secondary. But when you mentioned your friend gets status just from running business expenses through the credit card, that's how to do it. You can get top tier American Airlines status for 200,000 per year at worst. There's a lot of shortcuts where it's not going to actually cost 200,000, but 200,000 at worst on American Airline credit cards. I just paid my quarterly taxes on that, so I'm like, well, that's a good chunk of the way there. Um, you can do the same with Hyatt, where if you have the Hyatt business card, 120,000 per year on that card at worst will get you top tier status before even stepping foot on a plane or hotel. So if you're a business owner with high cash flows, you've got, and you're not doing this, you're probably leaving a lot of money on the table.
Nice, nice. I didn't realize, Smiley, there was a platinum lifetime member. Congrats, sir. Congrats.
Thank you, man.
Congrats.
When the Marriott executives called me up to give me my award, it was one
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
best days of my life.
Okay, so here's another question for you, real quick here. So, my daughter wants me to take her to Dubai and New York separately. What's the most affordable way for me to do that without having to, get a credit card, wait 3 years for me to get the points? What's the most affordable way for me to do that?
What kind of points do you have already?
Not many. I don't
Okay.
think I can even buy a ticket.
What's your home airport right now?
Probably be Atlanta
All right.
for Dubai. Yeah.
I would recommend looking into American Airlines for a couple reasons. One, in Atlanta, everyone and their mom has Delta status.
Right.
So every time you're like trying to get upgraded or trying to get into the lounge, they're like, well, we've got about 15 gazillion people who have higher Delta status than you, so you're not getting upgraded. But if you're the only one in Atlanta who has top tier American Airlines, you're getting upgraded. Their lounge is empty. You've just got like the ratio of people able to help you versus the Delta representatives. Yeah, be greedy when other people are fearful, fearful when other people are greedy. But
All
Warren
this,
right.
Buffett. Warren
Warren
yeah.
Buffett.
Buffett. I like it. I like it.
But as far as how to get to the Middle East, I would also recommend American Airlines miles because if you're okay with flying to Qatar instead, and then just like a 1 hour flight from Qatar to Dubai, the positioning flights are great because you can get from many cities in the US, New York, Boston, Philadelphia, probably Atlanta too, Miami, over to Qatar in business class for 70,000 American Airlines miles per person one way. And so they'll even tack on positioning flights too if the main flight is from Philadelphia. If there's availability, you can fly Atlanta through Philadelphia into Doha, 70,000 points. And it oftentimes is in Q suites, which feels like first class, even though it's business class. So you can like it's kind of like you get the little suite and then you can make like a conference table even if you have a family of four. If it's just two of you, my husband and I did that, so like we have the wall and we can just like hang out in our own little pod. They give you diptyque products which smell so good. They have rosé, they have alcohol-free rosé. They really specialize in the non-alcoholic drinks as well. So yeah, I would go for some American Airlines miles.
Nice, nice. Okay, and one more question before we go over to the final four here. So back in the day, they used to allow. I heard of this. I'm not sure if it's true or not. I want to know if it still happens today. If you had points with Marriott or Delta as a platinum member, you could transfer it over to another hotel or airline and keep the same status. Does that still exist today?
I don't like transferring around points in or out of Delta and Marriott. The valuation's not that good. The most valuable points are going to be the flexible credit card points. American Express, Chase, Capital One, Citi. There's a program called Built where you can earn points on your rent without having to pay any fees on that. No transaction fees or anything. Those are going to be the big five that are very useful for moving your points around, because once you have those, you can move them to Air France, maybe British Airways, maybe Air Canada, maybe Singapore Airlines. Depending on which airline is best, you now have flexibility to pivot your points around. Whereas if you have Delta miles, they have to be redeemed on delta.com, which makes it a bit rough.
Okay. All right.
Well, before we move into Final Four, Julia, was there any question that we should have asked you that we didn't ask you?
If anybody is looking for more information, the main way to find me is on Instagram at Geobreeze Travel. We're the same handle everywhere. And if you are a business owner or high cash flow individual and you're like, how much money am I leaving on the table here? Just DM me the word podcast 2025, no spaces, just like DM me that. I'll send you a link to our calculator where you can see like, okay, here's how many points I'm leaving on the table. Here's what I should do instead. It's totally free. But yeah, if somebody's like, how do I learn more? That would be the best next step.
Awesome. Well, we're getting ready to move into the Final Four.
Okay.
First question, Julia. Alive or dead, who would you want to trade places with for 24 hours and why?
Who would I like to trade places with? I feel like it would be someone in modern history, not somebody in like a time before deodorant. So
That was only in Europe, but if you go to the rest of the world, they were using deodorant. It was just in Europe.
So I think it would be a modern society. I am a huge anime nerd, and so I really like the show One Piece. And so if I could switch places with the author of One Piece, his name is Oda, and like just understand how this story is going to end, because it's been 20 years and I'm just like, what is the One Piece? How does this story end? I want the spoilers for that. Or like you said, alive or dead. There was once upon a time like a kid in Make-A-Wish where he had terminal cancer or something, and his wish was for the author to tell him how the story ends because he wasn't going to live until the end of the series. So either the actual author or that kid is who I would pick.
Okay.
Awesome.
What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
It just came from some random meme, but it was like, don't get upset about the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do. And it just resonates so well with so many aspects of life, whether it's fitness, money, your relationship. There's so many things where people get really, really upset about like, well, I didn't get upgraded. I saw this other comedy video that was like, don't be upset about the small room if you booked a small room. I'm just like, so much wisdom in just that small sentence. Don't be upset about your small room if you booked a small room.
That can be applied to any aspect of your life, essentially, right?
Yes.
But you know what? As soon as she said that and the way she said it, you know, it made me think of Yoda from Star Wars. And just that was a Yoda response. Like, small room you got because you booked. You know, it's like, all right. Since we're laughing now, Julia, what is something that never fails to make you laugh? I mean, just tears out of your eyes, you hold to your side, something that just cracks you up from the inside on every level.
You guys remember, did you ever see the video during the pandemic where there were these lawyers and one had like a cat filter on his Zoom and he couldn't figure out how to turn it off? And the judge was like, sir, I think there's a filter. He's like, I'm prepared to move forward with it, judge. My assistant is helping me, but like, you just watch the entire like legal proceeding with this cat. Oh my God. Every time it pops up every once in a while and I'm just like, still so good. Still so good.
I love that.
It's timeless. I've seen that too. It's hilarious. What's one thing most people don't know about you that you wish they did?
One thing that I wish more people knew about me. Um, it's always a compliment to me when people are like, "She's funnier than I thought she was gonna be," because my videos they're pretty boring and like straight to the point where I'm just like, "Hey, if you want to book this flight, here's the step-by-step tutorial. You're gonna click here and then here and then here." And so people oftentimes think that's just how I am every day, where they're like, "What should we get for food?" I'm like, "First we have to pull up Google Maps. Then we have to click open now. Then we have to do this." Where
Yeah.
um, somebody also told me my voice sounds like expensive AI. So thanks.
Thank you.
Expensive AI.
Yeah, they're like, it's like an expensive AI, not like
Yeah.
the half done ones. But
Right.
yeah, I wish more people would be like, "Oh my God, she's like a personable human and not
Right.
like
She's
a robot,
multidimensional.
not like a robot trying to study for a Turing test and failing."
Right.
Wow, Julia, this has been most informative, and as people, as Dre mentioned, we travel, but it's just like I was on your site, just getting little wisdoms and jewels and nuggets of travel, and thank you for A, being on the podcast, and B, sharing your wisdom with everyone. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you guys and for taking the time on this lovely morning, or it might be afternoon for you by now, to record this. Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said at the start, one of the goals was to get some more knowledge and wisdom for ourselves and listeners about how to maximize our opportunities around travel. The tips and tricks you shared with us did just that. For those that are listening, just a reminder, if you want to reach out to Julia directly, we'll link her Instagram page in our show notes, but you can also reach out via, what's the site again? The handle?
Mostly, oh, my handle is Geobreeze Travel. That's the
Geobreeze
handle
Travel.
everywhere.
All right, sounds good. Thanks again for being on.
Thank you.
All right.